Hello, Stephen. Hello, Mel. Welcome. Happy to have you here. And Kurt, welcome, Kurt. Brooke. Awesome, awesome. We have folks filing in. Happy to see you. Feel free to unmute and say hi if you'd like.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And of course, you can have your cameras on if you want to. You don't have to. It's whatever level of comfort you have. You're not going to be seeing me. Probably I might turn my camera on at some point, but I live off grid and it's a little crazy behind me. So you guys probably don't want to see that. But happy to have y'all here. And so, all right, good. We have some folks coming in. Very happy to see y'all. Got 4 more minutes before we're really going to dive into everything. Where is everyone located?
I'm in Santa Barbara, California.
Santa Barbara, California. Okay, cool. Were you at scale by chance?
I wasn't. I wish I had been, but
Okay. Kurt, where are you from?
I'm originally from the Bay Area, but I lived in New York most of my life, and currently I live in Montevideo, Uruguay.
Oh,
oh,
very
you
neat.
lived in Montevideo. I have friends there.
Uh-huh. Time people?
No, they're not Thai people. They're agriculture people.
Okay. That's where I am right now.
Oh, you are. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they're gauchos, I guess they call them. So,
Uh-huh, sure. Um, 4 cattle per person here, I think.
yeah, I I guess their biggest customer is McDonald's.
Is that right?
That's what they say, anyway.
Okay.
Very
Hi,
neat.
this is Steve from suburban Chicago.
Hello, Steve. Nice to have you here from Chicago. Brooke, would you like to chime in and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, everybody. I'm in Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and currently suffering from residency denial from my career in Manhattan.
Oh, all right. Well, sorry to hear that. Um, JR, or would you like to chime in, or Mark? You don't have to if you don't want to, of course.
Hi, JR from New Brunswick, Canada. I'm a multidiscipline engineer, electrical, and currently working as a cloud engineer.
Okay, great, awesome. So everything we're talking about today is going to be extremely relevant to you. So I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I'm very excited to hear your input on these matters. All right, we got enough folks coming in that I'm starting to lose track of y'all. So that's
Alan,
great. I'm so happy to
hey,
see
Alan.
all you guys here.
Hello, Mark Blessed, network engineer, IETF, and currently working on getting the IP stack in space. And NTP is an interesting thing here for me.
Well, that's great. I'm super happy to have folks in here that have direct professional expertise on what we're going to be covering today. Because as we work on developing the general timestamp API, we want to ensure that the format and is going to be applicable for the most use cases possible and make y'all's lives as easy as we could make them. We don't want your jobs to be harder than they need to be. And we know that folks struggle a lot with timestamp uh, miscommunication or just the timestamps formats being different from place to place. And we want to simplify everyone's life. So we need to hear from y'all and have you guys involved so that we can make sure that we're doing what makes the most sense for everyone. So we're super happy to have you all here. And so now we're moving on. We've got some more folks have filed in, but we are going to move on in the agenda here. So first we want to talk about the purpose of Network Time Foundation. And of course, the general timestamp API is going to be in here a little bit. But so the purpose of Network Time Foundation is to lead the delivery of accurate and precise time to connected devices around the world, of course. And time is a neutral public good. So NTF advocates for timekeeping as a neutral resource for a sustainable future. The time should be the same for everyone. No one should have like time traveling abilities that allow them to manipulate things in their favor and make it unfair for others. So time should be the same across the board to ensure fairness. And so sustainably cultivating research and development to keep time technology advancing with consumer needs. And that's what brings us to the general timestamp API. Because technology is going to continue to evolve and advance and get more complicated and have more and more layers on top of it. And we need to make sure that things aren't falling apart basically, right? And so we support enterprise quality software like NTP and Linux PTP that keeps global systems running. And the general timestamp API development is we would like to create a global standard to improve efficiency and safety across all technology platforms. And so, yeah, I'll let you guys just take a look at that. Does anybody have anything that you would like to chime in about any of this? Anything you find particularly interesting?
Alan and I actually work together on various projects, and one thing that we're really interested in is integrating with PTP. So, because that's becoming an increasing requirement. I do a lot of work in government sector with CMMC, and Alan does similar things. So, we're interested in extending things down to the nanosecond level of accuracy. And does the general time API contribute to that in any way?
It would assist you in being able to do that because it would reduce the jitter between networks by having a standardized format so the computers don't get as confused about what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's actually an issue because you have grandmasters in separate islands, and then getting them to synchronize, that's a tricky thing.
Right. So, because if the format is different between two networks, it can cause miscommunication, handshake failures, etc., because that network is used to receiving timestamps the way that it's set up to receive them. And so if it gets something that looks unusual to it, it might, buffer and then drop it, basically. I mean, buffer is probably not the correct word, but that's what makes the most sense in my mind whenever I'm thinking about it. Is it's like, the computer has to think longer than the authentication of that timestamp is valid. If that makes sense?
Yeah, or with UDP, it throws it away.
Yes, exactly. So it goes, this is bad, and it gets rid of it. And so we want to prevent that from happening. We don't want it to throw we don't want it to throw packets away as trash because the timestamps aren't good enough. So we want to make it to where, this would be difficult, of course. The dream is that all of the networks and everywhere would have the exact same timestamp format, so nobody gets confused. There's no miscommunication, right? But of course, we would have to get everybody on board, and that's never going to actually happen, but we can strive towards that, right? To make it better. And so it's very interesting to hear the specific problems that y'all run into so that we can make sure that those are addressed.
Great.
Yeah, Brooks here.
Hi, Brooks.
So I've been aware of the general timestamp project for years. it's not on the website. What is now bringing it up again?
Harlan talked about, yeah, we're working on getting it back on the website, but Harlan did a BOF session at scale, and questions and things that people were bringing up in that discussion at scale prompted us to focus on this more again, because people were bringing up so many of the general timestamp API related things. And so Harlan ended up talking for like an hour about general timestamp API. And so he's been so focused on NTP that he hadn't really thought about general timestamp API. That's why we took it off the website, because he thought people weren't engaging with it enough for us to have it on the website, because he was worried about it looking like a dead project. But this scale experience really made us realize it's not a dead project. People really are very interested in this, and so we want to revive it and really focus on it.
I see. So, yeah, I've been working on exactly that problem for quite a while, and spoken to Harlan about it occasionally over the years. Um, so I would promote myself. If you go to common-calendar.org, common-calendar.org. I don't know if I can send a link on Zoom.
I'm not sure, but yeah, we could definitely schedule some time to get more in depth on that, to get you involved on a deeper level, for sure.
Okay.
We would love that. So
I've come at it. I've been coming at it from the media point of view with my work at SMPTE, the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. This is where PTP time has met SMPTE time code, and that means local time, and that means TZ database. And I've been working on how to get all that to work for quite a number of years now.
Okay, well, yeah, Harlan gets very overwhelmed, and so it's difficult to speak to Harlan directly. So you and I can have some conversations and really hash that out, and I can get some solid documents together that I can then bring to some of our meetings with Harlan, and try to get things going on that better for you.
Okay.
If that would work for you. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to some little trivia questions here that can get us talking about some things that are relevant to our modern world and timekeeping. So, according to the Bitcoin protocol, a new block's timestamp T is valid only if it is greater than the blank of the previous 11 blocks. Who is familiar with this?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so does anybody on the call know the answer to the question?
No, but I've been involved with
none of us are familiar. Okay, so let's see. So the median timestamp. This rule, known as the median pass time, ensures that the network's clock moves forward and prevents miners from manipulating timestamps to alter the mining difficulty.
Oh, those miners.
Yeah, so this is relevant even if there's no crypto people on this call currently. This is very relevant to cryptocurrency and ensuring that miners aren't manipulating the timestamps, because their timestamps are actually allowed to be, like, their accuracy is within 2 hours. So it can be 2 hours of discrepancy. And like, if you really think about that, that explains the volatility of the cryptocurrency market. So if anybody pays attention to any of that and how just all over the place it is, when you think about that makes it make a little more sense. So as cryptocurrency becomes more ingrained into things, we need to ensure that people don't have an unfair advantage. And so the general timestamp API would come into play there, because one of the reasons that they justify that 2-hour window of time is they say that, well, people are all over the world, blah blah blah, they justify it with, and like timestamps are different and it's difficult, and like they just say it's hard, right? Which you can't get away with in the banking industry. Like actual banks can't get away with that, right? But we're getting to a point where cryptocurrency is potentially going to be regulated the exact same way that banks are regulated, because of how ingrained in things it is becoming. So once that happens, they're not going to be able to do that 2-hour window thing. They're going to be upheld to the same standards as the banking industry. And so at that time would be a good time to implement a general timestamp API into the blockchain protocols.
Yeah, we have to deal with this with replay attacks and IPsec VPNs, and there the maximum drift back is 30 seconds before we have to tear down the tunnel and renegotiate. So I'm
Right.
surprised that they could tolerate 2 hours.
Right. And then like I said, when you think about that, that's kind of mind-blowing, but it also explains some things. So we won't dive too deep into that, since there's no like super crypto people on the call, but it is something to keep in mind for the rest of us, because their networks are overlapping and interacting with all the other networks, right? So it's something to keep in mind. Okay, so moving on to our next question. What is the primary objective of the timestamp protocol defined in RFC 3161? Is anyone familiar with that?
No, I didn't even know about the timestamp protocol. I mean, I know about NTP, but this is different, I take it, than NTP, right?
Right.
Because this is the new protocol.
Yeah, this is a standard that is set by the IEEE, Internet.
IEEE, yeah.
Yeah, the IEEE. I can't ever remember what I'm so bad at all these acronyms. I get them all mixed up in my head. So I can't remember right now what that stands for. But y'all seem, if y'all are familiar with it, then but yeah, this was established by them. And there's various different timestamping authorities. So the answer to the question is to provide proof that a datum existed before a particular point in time. Would you like me to go back to the previous slide so that we can, or do you guys understand where we're at? Have I lost anyone?
I mean, I understand the problem. We want to make sure time is going forward.
Right, exactly.
And we want to be able to say that this is, that the previous records are immutable and that they can't be repudiated. Somebody can't say, this didn't happen at that time. This timestamp's invalid.
So
And that's an issue we have.
The way I look at it is we commonly have, say you have one clock, the saying is that you know the time, then you have two clocks, then you don't know the time until you add a third clock, right? So authenticating timestamps gives an entity a level of trust so that you don't need so many decentralized sources of time, so you don't need so many ref clocks. You can have one ref clock and you can trust that ref clock. That's sort of what authenticated time does.
Yeah, that's a super valuable function. Yeah.
Right. But in the same way that an SSL certificate tells you that that website is operated by the person who is in charge of operating that website, timestamping authorities will do the same in the sense that you can trust the source of the timestamp and you can trust the timestamp itself, right? So it authenticates the timestamp and the metadata.
Right.
So what happens, I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but what happens when, like, we might lose GPS sync, for example, and then we fall back on a cesium clock internally, then it'll free run for a while. So is that still authenticated time? I mean, how do you maintain that chain of custody back to a stratum 1.
From what I understand from a cursory glance at the API, it's propagating error bounds. And if those error bounds were to be dilated appropriately during the GPS outage, in terms of the, it seems like it could keep the API, keep faithful to the semantics of the API during that outage.
Oh, okay, so as long as it's within some delta, that it would be okay.
I mean, I'm responding only from a theoretical standpoint.
Yeah, I'm not quite 100% sure on that one. You got me a little bit stumped on what the exact answer for that one would be. So if you're in our discourse community, it would be awesome if you could start a thread where we could talk about that, and I can ping Harlan and let him know that that's an above my head a scenario, and we can get him to come in there and chime in.
Yeah, I just joined the community yesterday, and so I've already posted one question, so I'm hoping that's going to be a good resource for us on the PP.
Yeah, it's still
PTP
very
issue.
new, and we're still learning how to most effectively use it. And we're very happy with folks who have come in and started posting, because it helps us learn how to use it. It was gifted to us by Jeff Atwood to give us an upgrade from our old forums that we had been using previously, and we're really excited about it. So anybody who hasn't already joined here, we would love to have you in there so that we can have these in-depth discussions in a place that shows up in Google searches and helps people find us, because folks know about NTP and PTP, but they don't necessarily know about Network Time Foundation. And there's a lot of weird misinformation floating around the internet that Google finds above us. And the discourse community appears really well in Google search. So we're hoping that we can help a lot of that misinformation problem with the discourse community. So
one thing that would be helpful is I didn't really see an email address to give support questions to, and I ran into a problem with the forum already. A minor one, but I emailed Harlan directly, but that's like, kind of going right to the top. So is there a webmaster or some email address that's supposed to take those requests? Because I think it can be a powerful tool with some tuning.
Discourse, it gives you all the contacts, and you can also DM any staff member, and they'll make sure your request goes to the right place.
Okay, in that discourse, you can DM I didn't see any list of staff people.
Let's take a look, and I'll give you the link.
There might be some way that we can better label that we have.
Just if you could just follow up with us later, we don't have to drill down to it now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get that figured out, because we want that to be easy for you to find so that you can contact us easily through the discourse, so that we don't
Oh, there it is. Great. Drew sent it.
All right, cool. Sounds good. All right, thanks. Okay, so, and I think on discourse, is there a way to label us, Drew, as being staff? If there is, we should figure that out. So it's like within it. Okay, I don't.
Yeah, we're already labeled as staff. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Whatever. Okay, we'll move on.
And the other thing we're looking for as we grow discourse is anyone who's interested in being a moderator for certain projects. Definitely let staff know, and we'll make sure you have the correct rights for that.
Terrific.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and move on to our third and final question here in our trivia. I knew that we would talk a lot about these, so I didn't give us a lot of them. I didn't want us stuck in school all day, Okay, so the network time security protocol consists of two parts: key establishment and blank. Does anybody know the answer to that one?
Let me check with ChatGPT.
Okay, so NTP with extension fields. That's the answer. So NTS prevents amplification attacks by requiring that response packets never exceed the size of request packets, using padding when necessary.
Yeah, that's for public NTP, right?
Yes.
On the internet, right? Yeah, that's a lot of us are having, because of regulatory reasons, we have to get off of that and go to separate, GPS source time because of specifically this problem with the DOS attacks with NTP. So, but there are other problems too with replay attacks and sending false signals and things. So, I get that probably a lot of this is so that people can use the public NTP infrastructure more reliably, and I'm all for that. I want to get there. But today we have to go to private NTP networks in order to be secure.
Right, which makes sense because anything that's open to the public is going to be more vulnerable to bad actors. Unfortunately, black hats are out there and they're going to do black hat things, and that's very unfortunate. And so we're hoping that General Timestamp API will help mitigate some of that, because if the timestamps don't match the format, right, it's going to be flagged as suspicious. So it might be a little bit harder for those black hats to keep up with what's going on, because they might be outdated and that might reveal them as a bad actor, so, or any number of various scenarios could potentially happen there. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, that companies who have to adhere to these federal regulations or international regulation standards, you do need to use a private network to ensure that there's no bad actors in the network, for sure. And so we got to focus on y'all, but we also got to focus on the general public, right? So it's all under our umbrella there. All right, so this is more specifically just about the General Timestamp API here. So this is what we envision. You guys are part of that recipe there in the middle. And so here we see where we were talking about the Bitcoin stuff, the data packet. Current protocols like standard Bitcoin headers allow timestamps to be manipulated undetected, undermining reliability. That's what we talked about, how they have that 2-hour window, whereas as you said, there's you have 30 seconds, whereas they have 2 hours, right?
Right.
So that's an issue. And does anybody have any specific questions or input about what you're seeing here on this slide? Or does it make sense?
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Notebook LM did it with my help. So, all right. Well, it seems like everybody understands what we're trying to do here and understands why it's important. So that's good. That makes me happy. Makes my job easier that you guys understand what's going on and why it matters, right? So let's see, what else did we have on the agenda? Because we kind of talked a decent amount about General Timestamp API just leading up to this slide. Is there anyone who has any specific any specific work case scenarios that you feel would be useful for us to have a record of? Because this is being recorded and we can reference back to it, and I could let Harlan hear.
Yeah, so right in the middle bottom, you talk about man-in-the-middle attacks and forensics, and that's a key area for us because the way we interconnect these sites is with VPNs that are subject to man-in-the-middle attacks. And this is at the point where now we have a conundrum because a lot of times the VPN servers are working off of internet time, off of NTP servers, and and we're actually sending forensic information, basically syslogs and stuff for uh, the the SOC, the Security Operations Center, in order to do what they call SIM, which is Security Incident Event Management. We have all these logs, and we have to correlate logs from different systems to figure out what happened in what order. And it's a big problem because almost always it's wrong and you get the wrong sequence of events for things. And so I'm hoping that this would give us a way to synchronize times between these islands, uh, just so that we would not have this syslog coordination problem. And also it would protect against man-in-the-middle attacks because normally when you have an MIM, it's um, it's because somebody's router somewhere got infiltrated, and so you can't really trust things. And when they try to attack it cryptographically, it breaks the connection. You have to restart it. So these logs are the only way we know that something is happening because you can't see in the middle. You can only see the frequency of outages. So yeah, so I'm hoping that this will give us some fabric for time coordination between these separate operation centers.
Yes. Okay, Kurt, you have something to say?
Well, it, the threats are a little bit different for NTP and PTP. It wasn't clear which is being used for coordination between the two sites.
Yeah,
Well,
well, we use NTP for coordination, and then on the sites, we go to PTP for the applications that require that level of accuracy, and that's all GPS derived. But we have these two separate time domains that can't ever interoperate because they're on separate islands. So within a site, we could do PTP, but then between sites, we got to do NTP, and that's where the vulnerability is.
Yeah.
okay. Think that's really valuable input for us, and I'll make sure that we get that. I'll play this recording for Harlan in one of our meetings so that he can hear that. Anybody else have anything they would like to input here? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to, we have some survey questions that kind of do dig into that. I wanted to hear what y'all had to say without prompts, but here's going to be here's some prompts to potentially bring some things to the surface that you may have not immediately thought about.
I hate
Okay.
to even think about leap seconds. It's like a big thorn in our side.
It's the biggest thorn in your
Abolish leap seconds, abolish daylight savings.
Yeah, and yes, we got to get rid of daylight savings time. That is the killer for everything. So
Right, yes, that makes a whole mess. Okay, so other would be daylight savings time variables. So who has issues? So how many of you have issues with leap seconds?
well, we only
Issues with
have the
leap
issue when
seconds.
they happen.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
they
Okay,
happen.
Yeah,
that's a universal issue that we need to make sure is accounted for in timestamps. And then the error bounds as well. So all of these are important, yes?
right.
And then many, many, many other things. Right. So here we go. Okay, so accuracy and deviation. Understanding acceptable time error thresholds is crucial for reliability. This defines how much deviation from real world time is permissible before a timestamp is considered unreliable. So that's where we were talking about that 30 seconds versus that 2 hours.
Right.
So what time why is this over the top of that word? Okay, what time error can your application handle? So some of y'all said seconds. You said I think it was Mel said 30 seconds.
Well, that's just for IPsec VPN tunnels. A lot of
Right.
other applications can't even handle a second of a difference.
Right. And so that's milliseconds. Okay, so Nobody here is operating on hours, right? There's no crypto people here? No. Okay. So you're all here in either
Uh,
seconds,
we
milliseconds, or
Yeah, sub microseconds for distributed storage. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Ceph,
Right.
but it requires sub microsecond latency, and even over the network, if you cannot get within 500 microseconds, you are not going to have a good day.
And in my world of video business, we need to be very accurate to keep audio and video sync and streaming correctly. Usually, uh, PTP as SMPTE has decided to use PTP as their synchronization protocol. So you're talking nanoseconds, but indeed, the actual tolerances are more in the 50 or 500 microsecond range, probably. But that's adequate for audio and video.
Yeah, as an engineer, that's the most that's like the median for projects requiring time accuracy lands within 50 and 500 microseconds, and the standard deviation from that, like there's not very many projects that need absolute nanoseconds, and there's not so many that will tolerate full seconds or hours.
okay, awesome. All valuable information. Does anybody else have anything to chime in on this slide? All right, so let's move on next one. Okay, so oops. Ugh, the chat boxes. I found the chat box, Drew, on accident. Okay, hardware level benefits. Okay, if the general timestamp API supports hardware level precision, it can enhance timestamp accuracy, security, and scalability, making implementations more robust and reliable for critical applications. Which benefit would matter most to you? So, what? Whoever wants to chime in first, or you can take some time to
Well,
contemplate here.
so one thing we're trying to do is build a PTP lab for inexpensive, like Raspberry Pi level implementations. And so, coming from the world of expensive cesium clocks that cost $10,000 down to something that's GPS slaved and costs $100, it's getting this synchronization cheaply so that it can scale up. So, like for example, one of the issues we have is microwave communications. When you have like what they call air fiber, which is high speed microwave, they have to synchronize their times in order to use multiple channels simultaneously. And so we put a GPS receiver at each microwave antenna. But that gives us the leading edge pulse of, the NTP or the PTP. But now we got to have all the components necessary to drive PTP protocol out of that, and that's some kind of little module. And there doesn't seem to be anything on the market for this yet, except possibly one product which I asked about on the forum called, I think, I forget the name of it now, but it's a small TP module that snaps onto a Raspberry Pi. So yeah, so we need open source software, which I know General Timestamp is going to be open source, as a way to piggyback all the accuracy stuff on some low cost way to distribute this, because otherwise it won't scale. We won't be able to get this out to all the places that have to have it. So like these are up on rooftops. You don't have very much real estate to work on. You have like a 12 by 12 inch box to put everything
Right.
in.
JR said in the chat, check BeagleBone Black PRU timestamping. It can timestamp PPS from GPS and hardware and one can discipline a PCA
Okay.
and service GM. So look at the chat there to see what.
Yeah, I will look at that. Yeah, because that's a problem with the Pi. It doesn't have hardware timestamps on the Ethernet chip.
Okay. All right, good to know there. Okay, so that's helpful. Anybody else have anything to say here? Like all of these are benefits, right? But like, is there one that sticks out the most to you? Scalability was important to Mel. So, all right, we'll move on to the next one if no one has anything to say. All right, so maintaining long-term trust, ensuring legal and technical validity of timestamps over many years is crucial for reliability in digital transactions. How would you ensure timestamp validity? Like, which way do you think is the most valid way to ensure that a timestamp is trustworthy?
Well, ideally, you would have some kind of decentralized proof like blockchain.
Right.
Because
If
the
we can
problem
get the
with centralized
blockchain
trusts
on a
is eventually they
reasonable,
get corrupted.
right? If we get the blockchain onto the same standards as banks, then yes, that would be great, I think. Like you're onto something there. Anybody else have anything to chime in? All right. Let's go on to the next one. What's it doing? Is it? Oh, that's the last slide, apparently. We made it to the end. That was question number 5. So where are we at? Now we're just here to chit chat about whatever we want to chit chat about and wrap things up. And when would be a good time to do another one of these? So we're going to post something in the forums there here within the next few days with some options for when we'll do our next one. It'll be in approximately 3 months because we're doing these quarterly. But of course, we want to make sure that as many people can attend as possible. So once you see that in the forums, please vote on that poll. And is there anything that anybody would like to see in future mixers? We would like to be able to give out prizes or just, some kind of trinkets for y'all. What sort of things would y'all like to get? Like what would be fun for you? Like
Hardware.
keychain, hardware? Yeah. Yeah, I wish we had the budget for that, right? Unfortunately, we have the budget for trinkets.
I would say
Right.
maybe a chosen mascot holding like an analog clock or something like that.
Oh yeah.
That'd be cute. Yeah. Yeah, I've been working on a design for a mascot guy. So that's something that I've been toying around with and playing with. So I might post soon. We'll see. I'll post some of my design ideas for input on the discourse forum there. So we can all figure out who do we want our time mascot guy to be, or entity. What is this? What does it look like? Like if we personify time, who is that? Like, what is that? So I made a little grandfather clock guy. There was a grandfather clock guy and he was cool. That was neat. We used it for some of our social media posts, but we haven't really settled on something. So thank you for that, Alan. That's definitely something I've been thinking about, and I definitely love your input if you have any ideas there. Anybody else have any ideas for things that you would get you excited to win, or do you just not even care? Is that not important to you? Do you not care about trinkets?
Well,
'Cause
at
that's
trade
awesome.
shows, you have to have something to bring back for the grandkids, but that's otherwise.
So at trade shows, yes, but at these probably not that important to focus on. That's good for us to know, because we wanna know what gets y'all excited and engaged, and we don't want to waste our time on things that aren't going to accomplish that, So and that saves us money if we don't have to send out trinkets, right?
I guess we could trade papers and notes.
That would be fun.
Yeah, having the resource is really the thing, right? Having a place to discuss this is that's the best gift you can give is the ability to talk to peers.
All
Absolutely.
right. Well, great. I'm glad that these social events are gonna be a gift to y'all. I'm happy so that we got these going. All right. Well, anybody else have anything you want to add before we wrap up?
I have an extremely basic question, embarrassingly basic. Where can I find the latest draft of the API?
It's not published, unfortunately, right now. So we don't currently have it published. We want to talk with folks before we publish that. We want input and things before, because Harlan has put out his theoretical idea like in 2015. He put out, his idea, and then it kind of got put on a shelf. So we're taking it back off the shelf. And so we're going to work on it for a little while, probably within the next 6 months. We'll have something really out because we had this first social mixer. We got all y'all's input, right? And then we're going to have that next one. And then after we've had 2 of these discussions and some discourse discussions and some private discussions, then we can get that together and get it published. My goal is to have it published not by our next social mixer, but the one after that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Harlan's 2015 talk, and he was really ahead of his time, but now it's time. It's time to
Yes.
solve this problem. So
It is time.
I think you can get a lot of coalition around this.
Yes, I'm excited about it. I'm excited that y'all are excited. I'm happy. I'm happy that the way that this is going. We had a pretty good turnout on this compared to the kind of events that we were doing last year. So it seems like we made a good shift. Like this was a good decision to do these sort of events instead of the educational events like we were doing last year. So we'll reconvene in about 3 months. Between then and now, the discourse community is there. Let's get active in there and chit chat in there about anything. No question is a stupid question. The only stupid question is a question that you didn't ask. Okay, Kurt? So don't be embarrassed by a simple question, because that was a great question. Like you weren't finding it because it's not there. So yeah. Is anybody else got anything? We're all good
Nope,
here?
I think it's been very successful and a great start.
Awesome. I'm so happy that it's going so well here. We had a good turnout. This is a pretty decent group of folks to get together to talk about something so niche, don't you think? So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so we had a good discussion here. Well, we can go ahead and wrap up early, and everybody can go have fun on their Saturday. I'm glad that y'all took out some time on your weekend to come here and be with us to talk about professional matters, So y'all go enjoy your weekend, and keep an eye out in the forums for that poll about when we should do our next one. And we can't wait to talk with you in the discourse community.